Hi, I'm Talicza.
And I'm Rachael, and this is Transatlantic Crime, a true crime podcast that covers stories from each side of the pond. Every week, we will both cover a separate story with a running theme.
Disclaimer, this podcast will contain swearing and details that some people may find offensive. If you are of a sensitive disposition, listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Transatlantic Crime.
Crime. So close. Hi, Rach.
Hi, Talicza. How's your day going?
It's good. So today is the last day of work before I go on holiday to France to meet Vince's parents.
Yay!
And grandparents who, so his parents speak no English, apparently, and his grandparents speak no English, and they're 80, so they were in Nazi-occupied France. So I'm just for fuck's sake.
Oh my goodness.
I'm hi.
Are you nervous?
I'm an ignorant English wanker who didn't bother to learn any other language. I have really tried with the French, but Duolingo is this app. I don't know if you ever used it, but
yeah.
The owl thing that is its little character is just unbelievably threatening, and it's hi, have you learned any more French today?
I know.
Why are you so angry at me?
Every day it's haven't seen you in a while.
I know, it might as well have a knife. Fucking hate that bird. So, and that puts me off. Yeah, and then obviously I have this podcast, so I'm just really busy. But Vince has printed me out a cheat sheet that basically says 47 things you can say to a native French speaker. So hopefully I'll just go to the bog and look over that. I don't know. I'll let you know how it goes. But yeah, to say I'm bricking it would be a severe understatement.
You'll do great. I think if he cares so much about you, then the rest of his family will.
That's really, really nice thing to say. But yeah, I'll do my best and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, how's your day? Well, you've only just woken up, obviously.
Yeah, I've been really busy with work too, so I was finishing up my story last night and I dreamt about it.
Really? That's the kind of devotion I expect. I expect subconscious, devotion.
My mind is always on it.
Yeah, that's what I need from you. Also, I want to talk about our Instagram.
Oh.
I don't know if you've seen this, but the fucking funniest comment ever happened. So Carly, my housemate, is pretty bored, and she bought a book for lockdown that's called The Biggest Secret.
I saw you post that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's by a guy called David Icke, who is, for want of a better word, a fucking maniac. And he basically came up with the conspiracy theory, so it's one for you, that all the high ups in society are lizard people.
Yes.
So I'd vaguely heard of it, but anyway. So she was flicking through the book and showing me pictures, and there's a page and it's just drawings of the lizard people.
Yeah.
And on it it's this is my favorite bit of it, right? So it says illustrations by Clive Burrows, the Isle of Wight artist, of what people see when humans shapeshift into reptiles. This is particularly common among world leaders in politics, banking, business, the military, and so on. So on and so forth. Don't worry about the ins and outs.
Just believe it.
Me and Clive know what's going on, and we're letting you in on the secret. So yeah, and then the pictures are they're a kid watched Godzilla and then drew their own version of it. Oh, it's just fantastic. And anyway.
That's on our Instagram, at Transatlantic Crime, for anyone wondering.
Yeah, and you can see it. It's made me laugh so much, it made my day. And then, so I commented, my housemate has just purchased The Biggest Secret by @DavidIcke tagged him in it, because I thought this could plow up some funny interaction. Yeah. And I said, and it's the best laugh I've had in days. Anyway, somebody underneath, whose name is Leap of Truth on Instagram, commented, laugh, question mark. And then I went to reply and they've blocked us.
Whoa, right? That escalated quickly.
They are not fraternizing with people who are going to question their strong beliefs, and that's their right. So then the next person to comment on it was called Froggy McBone 420, right? And this is what he's got to say for himself, because you know it's going to be good. You'll be laughing on the other side of your face if you ever see one of them. I have seen them on 2 occasions. They're real and they fucking hate us.
Whoa.
I mean, Froggy McBone. You go onto his profile and it's madness. It's just madness. Oh, I think it's a woman.
Oh, really?
Unless that's someone he's stalking.
She's seen them.
No, it's a woman. It's a woman. I thought it was a guy.
Wow.
Oh, she's changed her name now to Froggy Lou McBone the First. So,
no more 420.
My mistake. That's all the sort of fun you can enjoy when you delve into the world of David Icke.
And our Instagram page.
And our Instagram
we
page.
We get people who are angry for us for Ted Kennedy comments. We get people who are angry.
We slagged off Ted Kennedy. It's great. Get involved.
Yeah.
Get involved.
Jump in there. Jump in those comments.
Yeah, I want to hear your theories on lizard people. I want to know if you smoke weed. I want to know all of it. Yeah, it's just transatlantic crime. Get on there.
Yeah. On conspiracy theory lizard people note.
I knew this would get you all fired up.
When you're dipping your toe into conspiracy theories, that's like the number one thing that...
That's like the surface scum on the pool,
yes.
Is it?
It is. I got into that YouTube hole maybe like 5 years ago.
I can't take it. I can't even watch it, like, for crying.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But whenever people say lizard people, I just think of this specific YouTube video that I watched. I don't know if it exists anymore.
Oh my God, please.
All these politicians like Bill Clinton, George Bush, it's like close-ups of their eyes when they blink. And how when they blink, it's like lizards.
So it's like 2 sets of eyelids or something, like in Men in Black.
Yeah. Here's slow motion close-ups of their eyeballs as they blink. That was the point where I was like, okay, I need to turn this off.
Were you high when you were watching it? Because it seems like something that would be like so interesting if you were on weed, which is, I think, where Froggy McBone 420 came into her own. Like, she knew... If you have a blunt and watch a video like that, you're going to have a time of your life.
Yeah.
So
maybe I should try that next time.
I mean, I'm not advocating drug use, but I think I might have to be high to watch something like that. But anyway, yeah, fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
So this week we are looking at Gangsters.
Yes. I'm excited to hear your story. I know like one group of gangsters. I won't say them in case you're doing them, but...
I'm probably not.
Okay.
I mean, like the Krays and stuff.
The Krays. Those are like the main British gangster people that I know about. Yeah,
so I didn't go for that because obviously I knew everyone would. Plus, like, I don't know, they've been caught, they're in prison, they've written shitloads of like
there's
biographies and stuff.
So
like,
much.
Been done to death.
Yeah.
But it is interesting though, definitely.
Yeah.
And I used to live in London, and there's a pub in Stepney Green on the street that I used to live on in Stepney called the Blind Beggar.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the Krays shot someone.
Right.
And it just hasn't really changed. That bit of East End London hasn't changed that much at all.
Yeah.
There's also like a bridge that we always go under with me and my stepdad, because he's from the East End of London back in the day. And he's like, oh yeah, like Jimmy the Hat is like buried in the bow flyover and the cement and stuff. He's got all these cool gangster facts, but no, it's not that, so we're safe.
Cool.
But it's you first this week.
All right. Mine's like standard 1920s gangsters.
That's my favorite though.
Yeah,
like
me
Boardwalk
too.
Empire, The Sopranos, like America knows how to gangster.
They do. The thing that with gangsters, though, especially like researching the stories, is like everyone's so connected. It's like so intertwined. It was really hard to like not go off on like 50 different tangents, you know?
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. This is Frank Abendando and the Murder Incorporated mob.
Ooh, Murder Inc.
Murder Inc. Frank Abendando was born on July 11th, 1910. He was one of 12 children of Lorenzo Abendandolo and Rosario Famighetti. So his family immigrated from Avellino, Italy to New York. As a teenager, Abendando extorted money from shop owners by threatening to torch their shops.
That's just classic.
Yeah.
That's just classic gangstering.
Yeah, just all of this. Classic, standard, you know it.
Yeah, run of the mill. Yeah.
Still interesting, but you've heard of all the tactics.
Yeah.
In 1928, at the age of 17, Abendando beat a police officer and was sent to a workhouse/reform school in Elmira, New York. While in custody, he acquired the nickname Dasher for his skills in baseball.
No, I didn't see that coming.
I know I asked Will, I was naming all the nicknames for the people in this story, and I said Dasher, and I was like, how do you think he got the name Dasher?
Good at running away.
He said he likes to throw a dash of salt on the dead body after he's... It's like, no, that's very creative.
In the eyes before they die would have been more effective. But yeah.
Like some kind of villain.
Like Salt Bay is what he's trying to like.
Yeah, yes. All right, so Dasher. In his 20s, Abendando joined a street gang in the Ocean Hill section of Brooklyn. Before long, he began working for and became the protege of Harry, aka Happy Maione. In 1931, Maione and Abendando helped Abe Kid Twist Relays and Martin Goldstein murder their gangster rivals, the Shapiro brothers. Why did they do this? So, previously that year, the Shapiros had unsuccessfully tried to murder Relays and Goldstein. The Shapiros then abducted Rayleigh's girlfriend and raped her. Rayleigh's and Goldstein wanted revenge, and the two Italians wanted to take over the Shapiro operations.
You don't touch the wives, do you?
No.
You don't touch the wives and girlfriends.
Yeah.
Get us against mob rules.
Exactly. Maione, Abendando, Rayleigh's, and Goldstein then banded together. They were soon joined by Harry, Pittsburgh Phil Strauss. Get ready for all these nicknames.
I was going to say.
There's a ton. I love them all.
Okay.
Emmanuel Mendy Weiss, Albert TikTok Tannenbaum.
His name was something bomb. That's why he got the name TikTok, I'm assuming. It won't be though, will it? It'll be like he loves clocks.
I know,
it'll be
right?
something fucking
he
totally unrelated.
He just has an affinity for clocks.
Yeah.
Seymour Blue Jaw Magoon. Guess how he got his nickname? Blue Jaw.
Blue Jaw.
Yeah.
Oh fuck it, I really don't know that one.
It's because he always needed a shave.
What?
Yeah, I know.
And his beard was blue?
I don't know. Yeah, it was just like he was always unshaven, so he got the nickname Blue Jaw. Lou Capone, no nickname needed.
No nickname needed.
Charles the Bug Workman, Cooper McHugh, and Vito Sacco Garino. Sacco.
Suck 'em one.
Yeah.
Like that.
This group became known as Murder Incorporated, along with about 200 other men that were kind of part of this mob. They were named the Murder Incorporated by the New York Press. So, Abendando organized gambling, loan sharking, and the extortion rackets for the gang, as well as committing murders. So he was just a bad guy. It wasn't like he was a family guy like, what's that?
Tony Soprano.
Yeah, like Tony Soprano. Yeah, no, I was thinking of The Irishman. Did you ever watch that?
Oh, fucking hell. I had to watch it in like 3 parts.
Yeah.
And then even then I was like, I'm not 100% sure what happened or why it needed to be 3 hours long. And everyone was like, oh, it's going to get loads of awards. So you have to watch it, otherwise you're just like an ignorant cunt.
I know,
It's just
you have to like schedule it in, like a chore.
Yeah, when it was over, I was like, oh, phew. That ticked off my list of things to say I've done in conversations. Like,
Right.
It's not like entertainment as I'd wish, but whatever.
Just a bunch of angry white guys. That's all it is.
Yeah, again. So,
White male rage.
yeah.
So, by the early 30s, Abendando was reputed to have killed at least 40 people using an ice pick on occasion, knives, cleavers, piano wire, firearms, and at least on one occasion, a cinder block to kill his victims for a payment of about $500 to $1,000 per murder.
That's good money back then, right?
Yeah. In his free time, Abendando was a connoisseur of fine clothes and fancy cars. Bingo.
Oh, yeah.
From his earnings, he purchased an extensive and flashy wardrobe, preferring dark suits and expensive silk ties, shoes with spats, and costly watches and other jewelry. He also preferred expensive convertibles in which he drove around the Brooklyn neighborhoods. He was reportedly a sexual predator. He would drive around in his fancy car looking for young women to rape. At his later murder trial, the prosecutor said that Abendando had all but admitted to one rape. Abendando replied, "Well, that one doesn't count really. I married the girl later."
I mean, this is not in The Sopranos.
No. Abendando married Jenny DeLuca, a hairdresser from Ocean Hill, New York.
Lucky girl.
I know, and this is because his parents basically told him to. I think she was pregnant.
And even then, you're married to an arsehole like the rest of your life.
I know. Just stressful life. for everyone involved.
It's like he's raped you, but he will marry you. I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Let's just forget it ever happened.
Right.
If those are my options.
I never want to see you again, let alone marry you.
I take the rapist.
Oh my gosh.
Awful.
He had 2 sons, both later became involved in organized crime. Surprise, surprise.
Mm-hmm.
In 1937, Abendando assisted in the murder of George Whitey Rudnick, a loan shark in Brooklyn. Reyes had ordered Rudnick's murder because he had received information that Rudnick was a police informant. Using an ice pick and a meat cleaver, Abendando and several other gang members strangled Rudnick, stabbed him 63 times, and crushed his head inside a garage.
I just wonder at which point he died there.
Apparently, they stabbed him, put him in the car, and then they thought he was dead. They were going to go take care of the body, and then he started banging on the car. So he was still alive.
Fuck.
Yeah. No one was arrested for the crime. Frank was brought up on multiple violent charges quite often during his time in the mob, but the charges were quickly dropped due to bribing judges and witness intimidation tactics.
Yep.
On the evening of February 6, 1939, Maione, Abendando, and Vito Garino prepared for another job. I just like saying Vito Garino. That's Sacco.
I was saying, why are you laughing?
Vito Garino.
Yeah, great. Great ring to it.
Mm-hmm. Maione, with the help of Vito Garino's wife Gertrude, dressed in a white blouse, blue skirt, lipstick, and heeled shoes. Gertrude helped him transform into a believable lady caller.
But I doubt that. I want to see a photo of that because I highly doubt it was believable.
The only believable part
is from behind.
Yeah. Kept a .38 revolver concealed within a fur wrap. So
classy.
Just imagine you're in the mob and you're like, "Hey, we're gonna dress up as a lady tonight. We're gonna go kill these guys."
The lengths these people are going to.
Exactly. Maione and Abendando rode together to the address of Cesar Lataro and Antonio Siciliano, 2 more supposed informants who pissed off the mob. Maione knocked on the apartment door. Siciliano let the lady in. He thought he was a lady at first, but he quickly realized that this is not a lady. Maione brandished his firearm. Abendando charged him from behind, Garino behind him. Maione and Abendando fired 4 rounds into Siciliano's back, but not before he reached the bathroom, releasing his pet bulldog. The dog was shot twice by Garino, who was later...
No more dog death.
I know. This is something that I learned too about the mob. So the dog was shot twice by Garino. He was later lambasted in newspapers for, amongst other despicable exploits, violating the underworld code for killing the victim's dog. So that's like mob code, like you don't kill the dog.
You don't touch the wife, you don't touch her family, you definitely don't touch my dog.
Right. Cesar Lataro, asleep in his bedroom, was shot in the back of the head. Several days later, the same homicidal entourage ambushed and killed another informant, Felice Esposito. So these 3 guys that they killed that week were part of a union, and they were basically threatening to not pay the mob their due and tell the police about it. So that's why they were shot.
Well, you might as well kill yourself because you know you're going to go down. Like, why are you even trying?
Yeah, and that's one of the
reasons...
That's
a fucking stupid thing to do.
Right. That's one of the reasons why Maione dressed up as a woman, supposedly, is because these 2 guys that they came and shot were being super vigilant. They knew the mob was coming for them.
Yeah, so they're looking through their peephole, they're laying low. There's also, like, because, you know, I said I just finished watching Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And they also do it with, like, police raids and stuff. Like, if they think somebody lives at 3 different addresses or they don't know exactly where they're going to be, they'll hit those addresses simultaneously so that nobody can call and warn the person that the police are coming. In Breaking Bad, he did... if you haven't seen it, sorry, this is a massive spoiler, but it's been like 10 years. So this is in no way my fault.
You've missed the boat.
So in that, he gets 9 people shanked in prison across 3 different prisons at once.
Right.
So, like, it might be 11, I don't know. But, like, because if you do it to 1 or 2, then somebody will catch on and put the others in safety.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to do it simultaneously. So I think that's where their mistake was.
Yeah.
They should have just done it all at once.
Yeah. Talicza's murder tips this week.
Honestly, the
Do
more
it all
the
at
more I
once.
hear this played back, the more I sound like a psychopathic murderer. But this is just logic, people.
Yes. Learn from everyone else's mistakes.
Walter White, don't make mistakes.
In 1940, Relais became an informant for the state of New York. This caused the breakdown of Murder Incorporated. Relais began implicating several gang members, including Maione and Abendando, in the horrific slaying of George Rudnick in 1937. In May 1940, Maione and Abendando were indicted for the murder. During the trial, while Abendando was on the witness stand, he whispered a threat into the judge's ear. Throughout the trial...
Oh, for fuck.
Yeah, he was just... he was so confident that he wasn't gonna get in trouble for anything.
That's not cool.
No.
Just be cool.
Yeah. Throughout the trial, Abendando was supremely confident that his allies would succeed in fixing the verdict. To his surprise, Abendando was convicted of murder. The verdict was overturned on appeal, and Abendando went on trial a second time in 1941.
Threatened the judge this time, did he?
Right. On April 3rd, 1941, Abendando was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death.
Ooh, what state is it? Or New York, is it?
New York. And this is the 40s, so
Yeah.
New York still had it. I don't think that they have it anymore. Oh, actually, I'm not sure.
No.
Probably not. So Abendando was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. Frank wore a smug grin on his face and stared at his executioners while being led to the electric chair.
Ooh.
He and Maione were executed at Sing Sing Prison in New York in the electric chair, which also had a nickname, Old Sparky.
Yeah, well, classic. That's what I'd be calling it. I thought they were all called that.
They were executed on February 19th, 1942. So that's Frank Abendando and the Murder Incorporated mob, not squad.
As in, what's he called? The murdering guy? Ja Rule.
Yeah.
Was he also in it?
I don't think he was born at that point. So that's those two guys. They were executed, and then on November 12th, 1941, while under police protection, George Relais, who was the original police informant who just kind of told on the whole mob, fell out of
idiot.
Yeah, he fell out of a hotel window in Coney Island. The official ruling was that Relais died trying to climb down bed sheets to the street below. However, it was rumored that the mob raised $100,000 to bribe Relais' guards to shove him out of the window because he was in the hotel under police protection.
Well, yeah, Epstein. That's Epstein all over, mate.
Oh, totally.
Paying off the guards.
Yeah, how much money? Did they have any new cars right now, I'm wondering?
I'd be keeping a close eye on those bank accounts.
Yeah. Vito Garino, who initially went on the lam during the investigation, turned himself in later to face indictments for several murders. He went through several trials, but taking advantage of plea deals, Garino avoided the electric chair. He received a sentence of 80 years to life. He died of a heart attack in Dannemora Prison in 1957. So that's the condensed version of the Murder Incorporated mob.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, is Dannemora the prison where one of the prison guards helped two inmates escape because she was like in love with them?
Yes.
There's a really amazing TV show if you haven't seen it. And everyone else, I encourage you to go watch it, called Escape from Dannemora.
Yeah, I watched that recently.
And it has
really good.
And it's got Benicio del Toro in, which is just like, oh, mother may I. Just like, I fancied him like a little bit at the beginning, and then by the end I was like, where is he and how do I marry him? So he's just such a badass.
I know.
Oh.
What is he? He must be like 50 by now.
No, I don't fucking care.
I don't care.
I don't give a shit. But yeah, that show is really good. And it's, who is it? It's Patricia Arquette, who plays the prison guard lady.
Yes.
And she just looks so, she just looks so like rough in it. Mm-hmm. It's just really weird. And it kind of reminds me of, I don't know, like Charlize Theron in Monster.
Yes.
It reminds me of that in the way that she just isn't who she is at all in normal acting roles. Like, she's gone for a really different character. She's playing such a different character.
Yeah.
And also, it reminds me of Fargo in like its filming and the dialogue and stuff.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Is it in kind of the same region? Like their accents, like
No, that's so Dannemora is in New York, I believe. So it's like East Coast,
okay.
northish kind of. So I guess there's similar accents for
Yeah.
people in the north of America.
If you've ever seen Fargo, like the series or the films, it's like the way they capture like the mundane nature of their lives.
Yeah.
They make the mundane nature of their lives really entertaining, and you feel kind of sorry for them, and you understand why they do these mental things to get out of that like monotony.
Right.
So it's just like really contrasted, like the kind of mental thing that they're doing with the really sad life that they're leading.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, really cleverly done. I love that
I
show.
like that too.
I watched it in like a fucking week or something. Yeah, I loved it. Classic American mob story, Rach.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is my story about gangsters.
All right.
Now mine, it is about gangsters basically, but not in like the kind of
classic nicknames.
Yeah, not in like the typical sense. There is obviously some underhandedness, and as Georgia from My Favorite Murder would say, it goes right to the top.
All the way to the top.
All the way to the top. So, okay, this is a story of Daniel Morgan. So there's been a few publications about this. So there's a really good podcast called Untold: The Daniel Morgan Murder, which I listened to a very long time ago. And it's really, really in-depth. So if you fancy a little bit more info after this, then go see that. And there's also been a show come out on Channel 4 in the UK called Murder in the Car Park. So that gives you a little clue as to what goes on. Yeah, so I'll just get straight in there.
Okay.
Daniel John Morgan was born on the 3rd of November 1949 in Singapore, and he was the son of an army officer. Army brat, moved about a lot. He grew up with an elder brother and a younger sister in Wales, where he attended agricultural college. He married in his late 20s, and then he moved to London, where him and his wife settled and had 2 children. He had an exceptional memory for small details, such as car registration numbers, and in 1984, he set up a detective agency with his friend Jonathan Rees, and that agency was called Southern Investigations. It was based in Thornton Heath in South London. On the 10th of March in 1987, so this is 3 years after he set up his agency, he's having a drink with his friend Jonathan, so his like business partner, in a pub called the Golden Lion, which is in Sydenham. Again, that's just South London.
Okay.
37-year-old Daniel was found dead in the car park next to his car. He was led on the floor, surrounded by blood, with an axe embedded in and sticking out of the side of his head.
Whoa.
Yeah, pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
The axe handle had been covered in elastoplast, which is basically just like the outside of a plaster, like type material.
Okay.
Oh, Band-Aid.
Yeah.
So no fingerprints could be lifted, and the weapon wouldn't slip. So, like, obviously gives you that quite a good grip.
Yeah.
Although his watch had been stolen, police ruled out that the motive was a robbery gone wrong, as there was £1,000 worth of cash that Daniel was carrying and it hadn't been touched. Strangely, though, the pocket of his trousers had been torn open and notes he had been earlier seen writing were missing. The nature of the attack seemed personal and hateful, as someone would have had to have gotten very close to Daniel to commit the attack.
And use an axe.
Yeah, so they're on the program, they basically say that someone would have had to gone like either behind him or by the side of him, straddled him, and then used that sort of stance to be able to get enough force to drive an axe into his skull.
Jeez.
So they would have had to have been pretty close to him for this to have worked. Yeah. And that kind of suggests also that he may have known the person, unless they like snuck up on him. It's a bit of a weird crime scene. And Detective Sid Fillery was assigned to the case. He's based at Catford Police Station, again, South London. And he was the one that took a statement from Jonathan Rees. So Jonathan Rees is the business partner. In this statement, he failed to reveal that he had been there at the pub on the night of Daniel's murder and that he had been working unofficially for Daniel's firm, Southern Investigations. So
he just
basically
left that out.
Sid Fillery was there, and he had been working with the person he was interviewing on an unofficial basis. So both of those things really raised suspicion.
Yeah.
So Daniel's line of work as a private investigator did bring him into conflict with people. Police interviewed countless witnesses who might have harboured a grudge, but someone that hated him enough to want him dead and why remained a mystery. After questioning his friends and family, detectives discovered that the relationship between Daniel and his business partner Jonathan had become strained a year before the murder because of an unusual event. So, Jonathan Rees had agreed to provide security at a car auction business for cash. This involved making sure the money was paid out for the cars and looked after accordingly, plus governing any arguments that might break out. During that evening, witnesses said that there were off-duty police officers unofficially working as security hired by Jonathan Rees. He and all the police officers allegedly there deny this. The reason that they would deny it is because it's illegal to work security outside of being a police officer without declaring it, because it's a huge conflict of interest.
Oh.
So basically, you're not allowed to do any ad hoc work as security if you're a police officer, because if a crime happens, you would be the one having to investigate it.
Wow, that's definitely not the case here.
Yeah, so none of them should have been there. And the ones that were there, there's one of them on the documentary, and he was like, I was there because I needed a car. Like, it's so annoying watching them lie.
Wow.
And he's like smirking as he's saying it, and you're just like, such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So as part of this job, I want to hope so. I really want, I mean, they're not getting good press at the minute at all. No. So as part of the job, Jonathan Rees was asked to take £18,000 profit to the bank at the end of the evening. So he reported that when he tried to get the night safe open at the bank, it was jammed. So I don't know if you have this in America, but basically you can just put an envelope of cash, put your bank details on it and slip it into a hole in the wall, basically, that's covered with like a big iron thing. Yeah. And that's it. The bank will deal with it in the morning.
I'm pretty sure that we have that here.
Yeah, so you can just drop any old thing, you drop any old profits in there from like a nightclub or whatever, and then it'll get counted in the morning. Yeah. He reported that when he tried to get the night safe open at the bank, it was jammed. So he took the money to his house. He said that when he left his car, two muggers with balaclavas approached him and sprayed him with ammonia in the eyes and then stole the money.
Sure.
Yeah. He subsequently spent 6 days in hospital. So that's his alibi of like, it genuinely was a robbery. Why would I spend 6 days in the hospital otherwise? Yeah. But then the rumour was that they weren't supposed to spray him in the eyes. They were supposed to spray it like at him, but they got him in the eyes. Like,
I could just see him like sitting in the hospital just fuming. They just messed it up.
Nearly blinded him. There were rumours this robbery was never happened and it was a setup. Mainly because the walk from his car late at night with £18,000 was something no one apart from the police at the car lot should have known about. Mm-hmm. He also could have put the money in the safe at the private investigation offices because they had one there.
Right.
The police officers that would have investigated the robbery were the exact same police officers who were at the auction with Rees.
That is sketchy.
Yeah, so the car auction firm that hired them were now suing Southern Investigations over the missing money. Not Jonathan Rees individually, but the firm that Daniel also owned.
Okay.
So obviously Daniel is pretty pissed off. Mm-hmm. He spoke to his brother Alistair about concerns over his business relationship with Jonathan Rees. His brother recalled, initially it seemed fine, but then Dan would say things to me like, he's lazy, he spends all day in the pub, you know, I'm driving around the country and he's just propping up the bar with his police friends. Alistair said that Rees spent a lot of time with the local police and Dan didn't really have a lot of time for them. And Daniel was certainly wary of John. In April 1987,
he doesn't sound like a likable guy.
No, he's like well, you'll find out later other shit he did, but even just from this, he's a wheeler dealer that isn't to be trusted. Right. Like somebody trusted him to run security at their car auction, and he just stole their money, like £18,000. So then in April 1987, 6 individuals, including Sid Fillery, who is the bent cop that said he wasn't at the pub. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan Rees, the brothers Glenn and Gary Vian, and 2 Metropolitan Police officers were arrested on suspicion of murder. However, all were eventually released without charge. In the summer of 1987, Detective Constable Alan Holmes, who was an acquaintance of Morgan, was found to have committed suicide under mysterious circumstances. Daniel Morgan and Alan Holmes allegedly collaborated on unveiling police corruption. There's a detective that is going to report the police corruption, and Daniel's going to report the police corruption.
Right.
And Daniel has an axe in his head. And then a year later, Alan Holmes is found dead under mysterious circumstances.
Yeah.
So
Sketchy
anyone getting close,
AF.
anyone getting close to the investigation is getting bumped off at this point. At the inquest into Morgan's death in April 1988, it was alleged that Jonathan Rees, who had experienced disagreements with Morgan, told Kevin Lennon, who was an accountant at Southern Investigations, that police officers at Catford Station, who were friends of his, were going to murder Morgan or would arrange it, and that Sid Fillery would replace Morgan as Rees's partner. So he's just an accountant at the firm, but he's overheard plans that they're going to bump off Daniel and that Sid's going to replace Daniel.
Okay.
John Rees said again to me that he wanted Daniel Morgan killed. This is Kevin Lennon speaking. Right. John Rees told me that Sid Fillery would be joining a firm after Daniel's murder. John Rees said, "I've the perfect solution for Daniel's murder. My mates at that Catford Nick are going to arrange it." Catford Nick is just slang for Catford Prison.
Okay.
So the Nick is like, and like you've been nicked.
Right.
It's like you've been arrested, you'll go to prison. Lennon's evidence to the inquest shocked Daniel's family. The impact of Kevin Lennon's evidence was undermined as it was uncorroborated, and his credibility was also questioned when Jonathan Rees not only denied wanting to kill Daniel, but he told the inquest Lennon had made it up to curry favour with the police because he was facing fraud charges.
Okay.
So basically he's saying, this guy just wants to get off of his fraud charges. I haven't done anything wrong. Right. So he was just dismissed basically as a witness. And to be honest, he doesn't have a recording of this. He doesn't have it written down. Like, it is just hearsay.
Right. Just hearsay, yeah.
So it's not really like the evidence you need. Later on, when asked, Rees denied murdering Daniel Morgan, and then Sid Fillery, who had retired from the Metropolitan Police on medical grounds, joined Southern Investigations as Rees's business partner. So he big fat did it anyway. Jumped in Daniel's grave.
Yep.
So a lot of time goes by and they're still having no luck whatsoever.
Poor
after
families.
The failed investigation. It's just so annoying. You're like, I know they did it.
Yeah. Who do you know who to trust? If you were going to report it, you can't just go down to the police station and trust that it's going to be handled correctly.
In 1980, someone's just going to rip out the piece of paper they wrote it down and throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
You don't have to put anything on a computer. They just go, yeah. And then that bit of paper gets lost.
Right.
So after the failed investigations came up with no further witnesses, the police turned to Crime Watch. Yay!
Is that on the bingo card?
It fucking should be, but it isn't. But it failed to provide a breakthrough. So the man leading the murder hunt was concerned by the behaviour of some of the officers in South London, so he asked the Met for an outside force to take over the investigation, and his request was declined. I guess like the CID are the people who police the police.
Okay.
So, or like the FBI aren't the police, are they? The FBI are a different organisation, and they would look into police corruption.
Right.
So I think we have the CID here.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but we have a body that looks at police corruption.
Right.
In 1998, a third investigation was launched, 11 years after Daniel's murder. Detectives decided to bug the offices of Southern Investigations. For this is, I haven't written this down, but they actually bought a house next door to the house.
Really?
They physically bought a house.
Just to keep watch.
To be able to do this. Just to drill through the wall and put a bug in.
Wow.
So
I like that stuff.
They really are trying. Yeah. Police felt Operation Nigeria, that's what they called it, using covert surveillance was the best way to gather evidence. But in another dramatic twist, the bugging operation was stopped when officers overheard a plot to plant cocaine on an innocent woman. So
why did they stop?
Because Jonathan Rees, who is his old business partner, was hired by a man to discredit his wife during a child custody battle. Rees arranged for cocaine to be planted in the wife's car. It was clear that Rees was going to fabricate evidence against the wife, plant drugs on her, and then have her pulled over by his corrupt police friends. This was a crime that was being committed, and in listening to the tape, they were forced to act.
Okay.
So they had to stop the surveillance, and they had to admit that they heard that, because they cannot sit by and watch an illegal act happen.
Right.
This is the good news. For this, Jonathan Rees was jailed for 7 years.
Okay.
And the corrupt police officers who helped him were jailed for 4 years. But the bugging operation had failed to provide any evidence that Rees or his associates were involved in Daniel's murder. But there's another twist in the tale.
Okay. So many twists and turns.
So this was actually hard to gather all into one sort of makes a bit of sense story.
Right,
The covert surveillance did, however, reveal information about the work of Southern investigations. It showed that Rees had a relationship with a number of journalists and that he was feeding stories to the tabloids, in particular the News of the World, for thousands of pounds.
Who even trusts
Now, I don't
the
know.
News of the World?
Well, it got banned in England, like it shut down, because they were so fucking dodgy and like so involved with the police. People went to prison because they did phone hacking.
Oh, yeah,
So
you're right.
there was a phone hacking scandal, and this is right in the center of that. This is happening at the same time.
Wow.
And I think the phone hacking scandal was so outrageous that it kind of took focus off of this Daniel Morgan thing. So they found out that he was working with the News of the World, and it had become clear he was surrounded by corrupt officers and corrupt ex-officers who were prepared to pass him information. This would be information that they gathered on criminals and perhaps on celebrities. Rees would get this information, develop it to an extent, and sell it to the papers, particularly the tabloid newspapers and particularly the News of the World. So another former bookkeeper explained the extent of the business with former Sunday tabloid newspaper. The News of the World really was the biggest customer. We used to invoice out maybe 500 to 600 invoices a month. All the invoices were hand delivered to a man at the News of the World.
That's so sketchy.
Yeah, so a copy of a witness statement to police claimed that Daniel Morgan was planning to sell a story to the newspaper for £40,000. The paper was the News of the World. This was 2 days before his murder. He had said that he was dealing with an issue of police corruption, mainly in the world of drugs, and that he didn't trust the police to deal with it, so the media was the next choice.
Wow.
Yeah, so 2 days before he was murdered, he was going to sell a story to the News of the World for 40 grand that police were corrupt. And then he ends up dead.
Yeah. So it obviously didn't make it to the newspaper.
No. And Jonathan Rees was good friends with the newspaper and made a lot of money from them. And he made a lot of money for them by being in the pocket of the police. So if you sell a story that the police are corrupt, then the police don't want anything to do with you anymore. And then that's your cash cow gone.
Yeah.
So not only did the police have a very good motive to murder him, so does Jonathan Rees. And then he gets like a corrupt cop to fill Daniel's place. And that corrupt cop is more than willing to work on things that Daniel wasn't willing to work on.
Right.
So with the advantage of 15 years' knowledge of a fourth murder inquiry was underway, headed up by Detective Chief Superintendent Dave Cook. This is all the way to the top. Coincidentally, his wife was a presenter on the programme Crime Watch.
What?
Yeah. So the day after the programme, including another section on Daniel's murder, was broadcast, Detective Dave Cook was told that there was intelligence suggesting that suspects in the Daniel Morgan murder case were trying to discredit him. It was a development that affected his whole family. He said, "We were convinced, and the Met were convinced, that it was a serious threat, sufficient enough for us to be put under witness protection programme, and we had officers allocated to us to give us assistance, and our security at home was beefed up. My whole life was destabilised. It was like somebody put a bomb underneath my sense of security, and mail was tampered with on several occasions, vans seen in the area. I saw a van keeping surveillance on our house, and on one occasion there was a brake light broken on it. So it was stopped by the police for having a broken brake light, and they did some checks, and they discovered that it was being driven and occupied by two employees of, yes,
I don't want to say it.
the News of the World.
Oh, no.
So, in 2009, the trials of Rees, Sid Fillery, the Vian brothers, and Cook began at the Old Bailey. In February 2010, the trial judge dismissed a key supergrass witness, which is basically just someone who grasses loads, I guess.
Okay.
A stay of prosecution was ordered in Fillery's case. In November 2010, a second supergrass witness was dismissed. James Cook was discharged, and in January 2011, yet another supergrass witness was dismissed after accusations that the police had failed to disclose that he was a registered police informant. So I think they said, this is just a witness. And it's like, no, he's been a police informant for a while.
Wow.
You can't just present him like he's a witness.
Also, 2010, this has been going on for 20 years.
Yep.
Wow.
So then in March 2011, Director of Public Prosecutions Sir Keir Starmer abandoned the case. Jonathan Rees and his former brother-in-law were acquitted because the prosecution were unable to guarantee the defendant's right to a fair trial, probably because of all the newspaper coverage.
Yeah.
Charges against Fillory and the other defendant had already been dropped. After the collapse of the Old Bailey trial in March 2011, it was revealed that Jonathan Rees had earned £150,000 a year from the News of the World for supplying illegally obtained information about people in the public eye.
Wow.
After Rees completed his prison sentence for perverting the course of justice, he was hired again by the News of the World. Rees worked regularly investigating the bank accounts of the royal family and obtaining information on public figures. He had a network of contacts with corrupt police officers who obtained confidential records for him. He claimed that his extensive contacts provided him with confidential information from banks and government organisations, and he was routinely able to obtain confidential data. He was also alleged to have commissioned burglaries on behalf of journalists. Despite detailed evidence, the Metropolitan Police failed to pursue investigations into Rees's corrupt relationship with the News of the World for over more than a decade. So...
this is nuts.
It is fucking batshit. In October 2014, the Vian brothers, Sid Fillory, Jonathan Rees and James Cook launched a £4 million lawsuit against the Metropolitan Police. Rees and the Vians lost their claim, but Fillory was awarded 25 grand in interim damages, and with a higher amount to be determined later, Rees and Vians appealed and were awarded damages of £414,000 each.
Wow.
The investigation has cost over £30 million and no witnesses have been found, nor has anyone been convicted.
Probably because you get an axe in your head.
Yeah, exactly. So like that, I know it wasn't technically gangsters, but that is the real English mob.
That's mob
the
shit.
papers.
Yeah.
The British tabloids are the mob.
Was the News of the World part of, didn't they tap, what's her face?
Amanda Knox.
Amanda Knox. Weren't they part of that, like, weird, like, phone tapping or some kind of weird tabloid hacking into her stuff or something?
So what they would do, I've watched, I think I've listened to a really good podcast on it. I can't remember the name of the podcast. I'll try and find it and post it. But basically one of the guys who was involved in the phone hacking scandal explained how they did it. So this is fucking nuts. And before, it was when people had like quite basic phones. So you would call the phone, wait for it to go to voicemail, press a certain number like 0 or whatever. And if it's your voicemail, you could like enter the voicemail and listen to the voicemails by pressing a code.
Mm-hmm.
So some people, if they were very, very cautious, would change their code, but most people didn't.
Mm-hmm.
They would just have like 1, 2, 3, 4
Right.
or 0, 0, 0, 0, which is what it's set to as like the factory settings.
Oh.
People such as Prince William in the royal family, he had his phone hacked, and the reason they found out was because they said Prince William is like feeling under the weather or is going to hospital or something, because one of his aides had said, I've booked you a hospital appointment for tomorrow, this is where you need to go. Things like that kept happening, and then the royal family were like, how would you know that? That was my private voicemail. That's the only place it was ever spoken about.
Yeah.
And so they figured out that the royal family had their phones hacked. They also figured out, so Millie Dowler was a girl that was murdered, and they just never found, well, they didn't find her body. She was missing, and her mum would ring her voicemail all the time just to hear her voice.
Aww.
Because some people would leave messages on there as well. And then it would say, like, this mailbox is full. And then the News of the World hacked a dead teenager's phone. And then they deleted some of the messages. And then when her mum called, she could leave a message. So she was like, shit,
Who's doing
she must be
this?
alive.
Oh.
Or like, who's doing this? Because her phone can now accept messages.
Right.
Like, it was full. So they knew somebody had been doing that. Like, hacking a dead teenager's phone.
What kind of mindset do you have to be in to be like, yeah, this is cool, I can do this? You know, just
They need to get a story. Like, that's their mindset. They just want a story that no one else has.
Oh my goodness.
Other papers would be going, how the fuck did they find that out?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, yeah. So anyway, the News of the World got shut down, rightly so, after that. And their sort of affiliation with the Daniel Morgan murder was that the Southern Investigations, they would hire them to put bugs in people's houses, like go through their rubbish, stalk them. It wasn't really connected to them. It was like them hiring a private investigator to find out stuff about stories that they want to know about,
Right.
which technically anyone can do. Like, technically anyone can hire a private investigator.
Yeah.
I think bugging someone's house if you're not the police is illegal. So interesting.
Sketchy and pretty much evil.
Jonathan Rees as well is on the documentary, and he's just like, nope, nothing to do with me. He has just no guilt, no
He must
accountability.
Be a psychopath. He must be a psychopath.
He fucking is.
Yeah.
He absolutely is. Like, yeah, I recommend it if you can get hold of it. Murder in the Car Park.
Wow, good
But yeah,
story.
when thank you. Yeah, when I read that, I was like, oh, so some guy got murdered with an axe. That's awful. Then I was like, he did what now? Like, he did what with who?
So many twists and turns.
Yeah, and the complicated thing is as well that Daniel Morgan, like, they interview not friends of his, but like people that work with him, and they were like, one of them was like, couldn't have happened to a more like deserving guy. The guy was a fucking dick.
Oh.
Like, so that makes it difficult because so many people didn't like him.
Yeah.
He was really arrogant and he thought he was right all the time. Like, I'm not saying he deserves to get an axe in the head, but loads of people probably wanted to axe him in the head,
Oh my gosh.
which makes the murder inquiry a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, like good riddance to
I
that
think.
guy.
Like, yeah, I think the only people that were sad were his family.
And even then,
honestly,
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, his brother liked him, but yeah.
Mobs and Gangsters. Like,
that was quite fun.
Yeah, good episode.
There's honour between thieves, isn't there? Like, you know, that world is of its own.
Yeah.
Like, they all did dodgy stuff, and so some of them were going to get murdered maybe,
Right.
and so it doesn't feel like little Jimmy from down the road, like innocent little kids got like fucked over.
Yeah, man dressed as a woman, pretended to be a lady caller.
I want to see. Have you seen? Well, obviously Sopranos. I'm going to fucking hop on about that again. But I imagine Vito from Sopranos, which he's like that massive guy.
Yeah.
He's like a ball, isn't he? He's like perfectly round. He's one that's like gay. He turns out to be secretly gay.
Right.
I imagine him in just like, yeah, just frilly old lady clothes
and like a flower
with a cigar
hat.
on.
Yeah.
Oh, I might, just for a laugh, because I've got so much time on my hands, obviously, I might just do a little Photoshop of Vito from The Sopranos with a cigar on and dressed up as a lady.
I have like a classic gangster picture of Mayone, Strauss, and Abendando. I have a picture of that, so we can post that. But maybe we could like Photoshop one where one of them's dressed up as a woman.
100% I'm doing that. Things like that is why I do this podcast. Like, no one can stop me doing it. This is mine. I can do what I want.
Well, now we've
have to...
done an episode on the mob now, so hopefully no relatives of the mob are like, who said this about my family?
Nah, the mob are basically over. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Are they?
Cool.
Bye.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Transatlantic Crime this week. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe.
And if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at TransatCrimePod, Instagram at Transatlantic Crime, and on Facebook with Transatlantic Crime Podcast.
Thanks, bye.